Hey, thank you, Nancy. Nancy says she's from Nairobi, Kenya, joining us from the county. Welcome, Nancy. Okay, Vincent Mutisia says joining us from Mombasa. How is Mombasa, by the way? It's raining heavily here in Nairobi. Please let us know how the weather is over there. And see Milton Okech as well. Thank you for joining us this evening. From Kericho, Josephat is joining us all the way from Kericho. Thank you and welcome. And then we have Pascal Onyango from Kajiado, Kenya. Thank you for joining us this evening. Guys, please continue introducing yourselves. We will start in a few minutes. So let's be a bit more patient for a few more people to join us. I can see Richard, who's joining us all the way from Kigali, Rwanda. Wow, welcome to the session, and we do hope you enjoy. Milton again from Nairobi. Welcome, Milton. Okay. So I can see a few more people who have joined us but have not yet started interacting with us in the chat section. Please go ahead and let us know where you're joining us from. You can also share what you're looking forward to gaining from this session, around, talent recruitment and retention. So you can go ahead and share in the chat section what you're looking forward to gain in this particular session. We are already online and ready to share our insights with you. So please go ahead and continue introducing yourselves as we wait for more people to join us. Dennis Gidenji says we are ready. We are also ready to start this wonderful discussion. So please go ahead, guys. Continue introducing yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're joining us from. You can also share your business and what you do, as well as what you're looking forward to gain from this particular session. Again, welcome to today's webinar. For those who have joined the Wild webinars before, you know that we have monthly webinars that address different areas of business for small and medium-sized enterprises. And so today we are excited to be facilitating a session just around understanding the talent recruitment landscape, and we have a team ready, online and ready to share their insights on the different key areas around this topic. We have our partners on the call. We have a speaker from WorkPay, from Fanisi HR, and also will not fail to recognize our partner Family Bank, who have sponsored this particular webinar. And before we even go far, I would like to welcome Jacqueline Carita from Family Bank to do a quick opening on the session. Jacqueline, whenever you're ready.
You can hear me and see me?
Yes, we can hear you and see you.
Thank you very much, Valerie. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are very happy and honored that you have joined us this evening for this webinar, which has been co-sponsored by Family Bank, as Valerie mentioned. My name is Jacqueline Carita. I am the manager Diaspora Banking and Business Club at Family Bank. So allow me, as I do the opening remarks, of course, talk briefly about the bank. Family Bank is a local bank that prides itself in growing strong retail customer base with a key focus in SME banking anchored on the positive transformation of people's lives. Family Bank has been in operation since 1984, and so far we have 95 branches across the country, and we support all customers from micro, small, medium enterprises, corporates, individuals, and even our minors. We as a bank have the capacity to extend credit and meet your business volume demands by making money available to you as and when needed in terms of cash and liquidity management. We are also an innovative bank that has over 80% of all bank transactions on digital channels. Our focus is to accelerate your business to the next level, and we do this through strategic partnerships like this one this evening with Wild International and all the other sponsors here this evening with us. And we're happy to be part of this group. We continue to accelerate and increase our lending towards micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, women-led business, and climate-friendly investments. These solutions are a reiteration of our commitment to the SMEs and drive value to various sectors of our economy. If we take a closer look just back home here in Kenya, SME contribute approximately 40% of the GDP. And of course, they constitute 98% of businesses in the country and have an annual job creation of 30%. And that's really good, of all new jobs. This therefore shows how critical role the SMEs play in driving the growth of our economy. But despite this fundamental role SMEs play, of course, they sometimes are not able to operate to their optimum level, maybe due to various challenges. Sometimes some of these challenges it could be the proper staffing, could be retaining the staff that you already have. And our hope, of course, this evening, as we sponsored, is to make sure that at the end of this session that you'll have learned effective strategies to recruit and also retain your top talent in your respective businesses. I would like to reaffirm the bank's commitment to you, and we are very open to serve you, your individual and business needs. Once again, I really want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know you might be in your car driving home. You might be already home. We hope that you will enjoy this session. Again, remember, Family Bank is here for you through our network of branches, 95 of us. You can walk into any branch and you will be served by a relationship manager, a branch manager, who will be happy to listen to you, hear what you need from us, and we'll be able to assist you. Once again, thank you so much. Enjoy the webinar. And thank you, Valerie. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline, for that beautiful introduction. And again, just to say, we do hope that this particular evening and this discussion is going to help you understand effective strategy, not only to recruit top talent, but also to be able to retain the talent. And yeah, before we actually continue, I'm just going to go back to the chat section again to just see whether we have anyone else who's shared an update. I can see Joanne Achieng, who's the founder of Kaunde Designs, who creates stylish, trendy apparels to suit bold and creative wearer experience, joining us all the way from Juja. Guys, don't shy away from ever introducing your business in the chat section. You never know who is following closely with us. We have Nancy, who's Tech Lisha Enterprises, agribusiness and general office suppliers. So guys, please continue sharing where you're joining us from, share your business. What are you looking forward to in terms of, staffing and recruitment of talent? So as we begin our session, I would like to quickly take you through some rules of engagement just to enforce that as we start. For those joining us, you might have noticed that your video and your camera are off. This has been done because of the setting of this particular session, which is our webinar. However, you can definitely interact with us in a number of ways, as well as contribute to discussions around this particular topic. One, please go ahead and rename yourselves using your two full names. And then secondly, you can raise your hand if you're experiencing any technical difficulties. Our technical team on the back end will reach out to you just to sort out what the issues could be. Again, continue interacting with us in the chat. I can see Lillian has also shared there. Kevin Owino as well. Nice to see you again here, Kevin, who is one of the SMEs that have undergone a number of programs at from Wild. Again, drop any questions you may have in the Q&A tab. Please do not put your questions on the chat section because, as you can see, we're using that area to continue interacting. So drop them in the Q&A tab so that we don't miss out on that. The session will be recorded just so that you can receive this particular recording with you. We were hoping we're going to live stream this on Facebook. However, we, again, just continue interacting with us on this particular platform. So today we are excited to bring on board two key speakers around the area of recruitment, who we will be going, just give me a minute, who will be contributing highly to the different topics or questions that we have aligned to help us understand, just as a small business owner, how can we navigate this particular space. So Our first speaker for today, we have Boris Maguire from WorkPay, who is the Vice President of Operations at WorkPay, which is a technology startup building HR and payroll rails for Africa. So WorkPay empowers organizations across the continent to manage and pay their employees on time, every time. Boris oversees all WorkPay operational teams across 5 African countries, including people operations, building on 16 years leading impactful businesses and teams around the world. He has previously served as the MD for ORB Energy Kenya, redesigning people operations to focus on commercial solar projects instead of home solar. And also as the CEO of EcoMobile, where he reshaped customer and people operations around a SaaS model and achieved profitability. Guys, this is the point where you need to start giving the reactions at the bottom. Can you see the experience and the wealth of knowledge that Boris holds already? Please, let's see some reactions there for Boris as he prepares to speak to us. Again, he holds an MPA from Columbia University and a Bachelor of Arts from Duke University, as well as a certificate from Africa Management Institute. And in his free time, he is passionate about adventure, conservation, and leadership development, co-funding Safarini Leadership to pursue these goals with other global professionals. Again, I am back to see the reactions for Boris. So let's have some reactions going. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, our second speaker for the evening, we have Kevina Nyambura, who is the lead consultant at Fanisi HR Solutions. Kevina is a HR expert with over 15 years of experience working with SMEs. She is a pragmatic problem solver who focuses on simple solutions to people challenges faced by employers. She has top skills in recruitment, onboarding, performance management, and is an excellent trainer. She is passionate about talent management. For those who do not know, Fanisi HR Solutions is based at the Sandbox and is a HR agency that focuses on HR or employment needs for SMEs or smaller organizations. With 15 years of experience, the Fanisi HR team works to ensure compliance, the right placement of talent, growth and development of teams, and work organizations. So they are competent at implementing performance management systems, as well as learning and development programs. And these services are valuable to business owners and smaller organizations that do not have an optimal HR department so that they can meet their strategic goals through their employees. Again, guys, you can see the expertise that we have brought together to discuss this particular areas on talent management. So please go ahead and give the reaction. I can see, Kevina, you're receiving a lot of love. So we are excited. Again, we do have our partner, Berta Monday, that was not able to join us this evening. However, we will go ahead and continue with the discussions. Yeah, so thank you, Ian, for that projecting. So again, I think we can go ahead and begin the discussions for the evening. Just to get a bit of an understanding from our speakers as well as the participants joining us, in 2 keywords, what is your, understanding of top talent? Before even the speakers go, I'm just reminding our participants who are joining us, please share in the chat. You can always interact with us around any questions or any topic areas that we are discussing this evening through sharing with us in the chat. How we're going to run this session is first, we are going to, focus on key areas that will help us understand the talent acquisition landscape for small and medium-sized businesses. And then we are going to move on to discussing, different strategies and different actions that SMEs can implement towards ensuring proper talent acquisition and retention for SMEs. So yeah, maybe I think Kevina was experience. Okay, there you are. So I think we can go ahead and start, and just we can start with you, Kevina. You can share with us in 2 keywords your understanding of top talent.
Okay. Hi, Veronica, and good evening to everyone. I really struggled with that. That's a difficult one to summarize all the things I have to say into 2, but my 2 words would be culture fit.
Culture fit. Okay.
Yeah, culture fit. So the best fit for the culture, but culture fit.
Culture fit. Thank you for that, Kevina. We can have Boris as well share.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for the kind introduction, and thanks everyone for joining late in the evening. Great to see everyone here, and thanks for the introductions. I think the 2 words that I would come up with are get results. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. The best people get it done, get the results you need.
Okay, get the results you need and the best people to get it done. So just to throw it to our audience, please feel free to share with us as well in the chat section. When you hear the word top talent, what comes into mind when you hear that. So please feel free to share with us in the chat section so that we can also, interact with you. I think we can go ahead and also just get deeper into these discussions. And start with the main, area. Some of the key challenges that as a small and medium-sized business, you are facing when it's time to, recruit top talent in your organization. And I know, Kevina, you have had, a lot of interactions with SMEs around this area, even as you're supporting them with this particular aspect. Maybe we can have you share with us some of the key challenges that SMEs are facing in terms of recruiting top talent.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. As you've said, I've worked with hundreds, maybe tens, or almost into the hundreds of different small businesses, and we hear of unemployment. So you'd think if there's as much unemployment in Kenya, there would be lots and lots of top talent, but actually, the experience on the ground is shocking because in equal measure, we struggle to find great talent. So top talent is difficult to find. And we've sat down and thought, what is the challenge? And the challenge could be maybe the education system not producing talent that fits the needs of the market, or at least not keeping up with the changes. And there have been drastic changes, especially in the last 5 years or 4 years since COVID. So a lot of the challenges we face, so it will be for some positions. So there are positions that we don't struggle to fill because there's a lot of talent in terms of technical knowledge, but we struggle to find culture fit or soft skills, emotional intelligence. That's where we struggle. And in the same breath, when you look at retention later, you'll find that even employees struggle to find spaces where they fit. So there's that struggle to find talent that fits where the organization is. So those are the ones that I'd say are a challenge. But then, so I'd say like sales. Sales is a one position that we struggle the most, but it's still the one that has the most applications. Because everyone, who's not maybe found a fit in terms of profession, thinks they can go into sales. But then when we need to shortlist and look through all the applications that we get for sales, we really struggle to find salespeople. And even when we find them, they still have the highest failure rate before confirmation, because they'll find that they still couldn't sell because it's the easiest to measure. Yeah, so we struggle to find top talent in SME.
Okay, thank you. I've had a statement that you said there that kwa ground it ni different. So again, guys, please continue also sharing with us in the chat section some of the challenges that you're facing in terms of recruiting top talent. Boris, is there a thing or two you would like to add onto that?
Well, I would definitely agree with what Kevina said. I think there's a large quantity of people, and that probably reflects unemployment in a lot of cases. But finding quality amidst the quantity is a big challenge. I think for any business, but particularly SMEs. Oftentimes, you find people are lacking really foundational skills, and those can be hard for SMEs to interview for, I think. So you might need people, even if it's a relatively low-level administrative job, you need people to have some Excel familiarity. You need to have some customer communication, soft skills, things like that. Those can be hard to test for, easily put on a CV without actually being backed up by experience. And unfortunately, often lacking even amongst university graduates. So those can be difficult. I would only add employer branding. I think we live in a very sort of brand-driven culture here, and people are attracted to brands they know. They buy brands they know, but they also look to work for brands they know. So if you're an SME and you're not as known to the market, the talent market, you might find you are less attractive to the more talented folks, or that people are more perhaps skeptical of you, or perhaps less likely to stay with you in the event that they have an opportunity with, you know, a shinier brand that they've seen elsewhere. So I think SMEs definitely need to try and emphasize employer branding, which is something that you see big corporations and startups do a lot of.
Yes, Veronica, if I could add to that, so that's true. For small businesses, like many times we'll place ads and they'll say, we will not disclose the employer brand. And so we keep telling employers that there could be reasons that you want to hide your identity, but top talent are usually not looking. And even when they find the opportunity, if it's hidden, then they'll move on with their lives and not apply. So being able to disclose the identity of your organization really helps. But with that, then it means that they'll go online and check you out. So you want to make sure that they can find some content. But the one that is a bigger problem for small businesses and that they need to take care of is when we hire, we do background checks. And the equivalent of that for the job seeker is due diligence. And how do they do this? You'll go to LinkedIn, find the employer, find employees who work with you, have worked with you, and call them up and check up on the employer. And you had best find that people are saying good things about you, because then that's the best branding that you can do. It's people speaking about you, because as Boris says that it's not like a Safaricom, a big brand that everyone knows. This is a small brand that probably no one has ever heard of. But then when they do their due diligence, you want them to find people who are saying good things, which then takes us to the retention discussion that we'll have this evening.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad you've brought up that discussion, because at some point we will be looking at how, you know, this navigation in the recruitment process is different for SMEs, and whether, you know, larger organizations are experiencing the same, whether those problems that we're discussing are just unique to SMEs. And so maybe just, you've said, you know, let's say, for example, we've done the recruitment and the SME has been able to get the quality, you know, talent. So what do you feel at that point are some of the, you know, challenges that they're facing in terms of now retaining this particular employees, which I think you had already begun bringing that out, Kevina, and maybe you can just pick that up.
Okay, so recruitment and retention are related. They are separate, but they are related, because if you find the right talent, which is not easy to do, then you want them to stay. So you want to do everything to keep top talent. And we said earlier that we have a shortage of top talent. That means there are people looking, and the available pool is not that large. So you want to do everything to keep your best people. Now, being a small business, the challenges we face are, one will be cash flow. So I cannot compete with Safaricom. There's no way I'm going to be competing with any corporate brand. Corporate brands have, first, just the brand name itself, just that sells. So when they are recruiting, they're not even looking, they're not selling, they're buying. People are just ready to apply. But for us, when we are looking for talent, we actually selling our brand and going out there to sell and make people attracted to us. So the challenges we find with retention would be that there's competition, that the next business down the road is also looking for the same talent. So that if then you don't do the things that you need to do to keep talent, then the talent will leave you. So, and some of the problems we face are maybe out of your hands, like cash flow. It gets to a point where you're scaling, you need to buy equipment, you need to invest in this or the other, then you have cash flow issues. And the one thing that employees want is job security and consistency. You want to know that your employer is reliable. They'll pay you on a certain day. If they say they pay you on the 28th, even if they say they pay you on the 5th, because you can plan your life around the 5th, then let it consistently be that. But sometimes then with businesses, we are unable to do that. You might find that there's times where you have cash flow dips. And that could be one of the reasons that we find that we struggle to keep top talent. Just today, I was working with a team that is struggling with their cash flows. So their talent, and they have very, very, very good talent. So people are leaving, and we were sitting at a table thinking, what do we do with this thing? Yeah, and some of the things also are low-hanging fruit. So we say communication. And when we do our engagement surveys, one of the things that employees say that we fail at is communication. So then if you're going through this cash crunch, what are you supposed to do? Because then you have no control over that, is communicate clearly. And some of the things you are able to do. So make sure that you're communicating proactively. You're not telling people, no, on the 10th that their salary delays if you already knew from the 15th that you're not going to meet payroll. So communication will be one of the ways that you retain top talent. And it's one of the things that people will tell us was a reason that they left, because they say, I felt disrespected, that no one said anything to me, that the salaries will be late. So some of the ways then that we, or the struggles that we have, because they're also the solution with top talent, would be like learning and development. If you go to a bigger brand, they have probably a whole department called learning and development. If you go to small businesses, it's very few that have any training programs. And that becomes a reason that people leave, or an attraction on the other end that will make them leave. And some of these situations, some of these reasons don't need to be, because we find that among us, among you in the company, yourself and the other managers, you have a lot of knowledge. So just putting together training content, delivering this content proactively and consistently would be one of the reasons that you keep people, and it's one of the reasons that if it doesn't happen, will make them leave. But one I'd like to point out most clearly is we find that a lot of times when people leave, they leave because of management. They leave because of the leaders. And there's even a phrase that says people don't leave companies, they leave people, they leave the manager. So the challenge then comes to your own self-awareness and allowing people to speak to you, and allowing the teams to give you feedback and say, we have this problem, and working through that problem, working through that feedback. As difficult as it is, it's very difficult to get negative feedback. And we find that, like now for us, when we do an analysis of our business owners, they're all the same personality. We find that they're all type A's, they're all very, very brilliant people. You find that they are also very impatient. So just that awareness, knowing that I am allowing people to speak to you and tell you you're impatient, you get angry, you really snap at us, and allowing for people to speak with you, to speak to you, and doing something about it. So self-awareness and getting to a space where you're able to find help. Because if then you are as smart as I described, you probably were celebrated all your life. You are a student all your life. So you've always been celebrated, you're the best. So it's usually the very first time that people are trying to tell you that you're not good enough. for what you're doing. And probably you've been making a lot of money. So even there, you've really succeeded until now you start to get a team. And then the team is very unhappy, very disgruntled. People are leaving. And when you ask for feedback, it still comes back to you. It's very difficult to get that, to take that feedback. And even for us, that's the most difficult space where I need to come back and tell you the problem. Yeah, you're too abrasive. You get angry, as I said, you don't listen to us. And coupled with complaints about Gen Z, because we really complain about Gen Z. And I keep saying, you're stuck with them, so live with it. So how do you then make sure that you are able to work together in peace and work together collaboratively and work together successfully? Yeah, so I know I've gone on and on about that because it's the biggest pain point where I see it will be the business owner themselves being the main problem and not allowing people to speak to them. And so that being a big problem in retention. And the solution is just that, getting a coach, work with a mentor, but basically just allow your team to speak to you and to push back. And young people will push back. Allow for it to happen. Yeah, and there could be a lot more that I could speak about, but I'd hand over back to you, Veronica, then I'll be back.
Thank you. I've summarized the points you've given us, but I really, really love the last point that you've just brought in, where people, they don't leave the company, they leave because of the leaders, and just the aspect of, letting people understand that your leadership style could influence, the talent in your organization to either stay or leave. So thank you for that. Maybe I can also bring in Boris just to share some other, insights on this.
Yeah, thanks. No, I absolutely agree with everything Kavina said. And I think at the beginning, Kavina had said that her definition, I think, of top talent is culture fit. And I think it's a great one. But that's a two-way street, right? They have to fit, but you have to have the culture. So the question is, what is that culture and what appeals, whether it's to Gen Z or millennials or whomever. And I think I totally agree with transparency. I think radical transparency is underutilized and very valuable, and people appreciate being trusted and treated like a grown-up and being able to handle sort of big picture insights. So, I used to run a company, we had 10 people, and sometimes we had runway concerns, and at one point we had to do redundancies. So we started doing a monthly brief, high level, we showed some charts. Here's how much money we have. Here's how much profit we made or how much loss we made this month. If that continues, here's how it looks. Worst case scenarios, best case scenarios, running out of money or chart going up, whatever the case may be. So people had a real sense of how likely is it that that best case scenario takes place, or the worst case scenario, what does that look like? And we're trusting them to, handle that knowledge and act accordingly. And then if the worst case scenario manifests itself, no one is surprised and caught off guard or thinks that you've done something to sort of trick them out of their salary or whatever the case may be. So I totally agree with transparency. It's two ways: solicit feedback, take the feedback, as Kavina said, create an environment of trust and support. And I think about incentives. Yes, you probably can't compete with the Safaricom's on salary. And, so if you're a high growth SME, like a tech company, like Workpay, perhaps you can offer equity options, provide liquidity opportunities for that equity, create a secondary market for shares at each round of investment so that employees can cash out some of their share options if they want and actually see money in their pocket coming from those shares. So they mean something, not just at the end of the line if you get acquired, but actually as you raise money, employees can make money. But I also see we have businesses like bookshops here, design firms. There's a clothing shop. So, equity may not be as useful or valuable to you. So what are the incentives you can offer your employees? Is it sales commissions? Is it some sort of revenue or profit share? Is it some sort of, bonus system? Show them that you're really invested in their performance, that you trust them to do well, and that you're coming from a place of plenty, not a place of scarcity, that you can share in success, just as you would share in failure inevitably. So I think try to figure out those incentives. And just because you aren't a big startup who can do, take everyone bowling and have some big, exciting team building, that doesn't mean you can't invite your employees over for dinner. And if you're running a bookshop, they can't work from home. I get that. But if they have a childcare problem, can they bring their child to the shop? you know, I'd start from a position of trust and allow them to do that until they kind of violate trust. I think if you treat people like grown-ups, and you really establish that you trust them from the beginning, they're more likely than not to respect that trust. Of course, not always. Sometimes you'll you know, your kindness will be met with disappointment, but that's happening one way or the other. So I'd say start from a position of trust, support, transparency, and try to build that, and you'll have a culture, and you'll build loyalty as well. And loyalty is what kind of underlies retention.
Okay, thank you. I love that statement. Start from a position of trust. And thank you so much for sharing that aspect. And for those that are joining us, please continue introducing your business and what you do, because this also leads and guides, you know, some of this insights that we're sharing. So you've heard what Boris has said. It's regarding the different businesses that have already introduced themselves here and where you can start as a business owner. And so maybe just to build up on, you know, the certain areas that you've shared around the challenges that the SMEs are facing. And I know, Boris, you've been able to work with also, you know, larger organizations. You can also just let us know, are these problems just unique to SMEs, or do larger organizations also face the similar challenges?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I haven't really worked for big multinational type corporations, big brands that we'd all recognize. So the short answer is probably I don't know necessarily. But from working with a lot of them as clients, I think certainly the kind of broader intergenerational challenges that Kavina mentioned cut across, right? And we all have to adapt to those culture challenges, incentive challenges, competition. And competition is global now in most cases, right? Especially if you're a sort of tech-driven business, the talent pool is global. So, you know, Unilever and Safaricom are competing around the world just as Workpay is. And, you know, we have about 100 employees. So we're not the big corporation, but we're competing in these global markets. I think some things are different. Like if you join Unilever or Safaricom, you probably don't have an expectation of getting equity, but you have expectations of a big salary, right? So for better or for worse, that's Safaricom has to deal with that. People understand that if you're running, I saw also there's prescription delivery company, some healthcare outlets, you know, people are not expecting you can offer big salaries. So what can you offer them? So in some ways, perhaps SMEs have more flexibility there to experiment with different types of compensation models. What we can't do as SMEs is provide the kind of benefits that a Unilever or a Safaricom would provide. They command economies of scale. They can get, you know, insurance and things like this at very, very low rates because they're so big. So you can't, you know, that's probably maybe not unique, but it's different for SMEs. And I think the other big challenge is upward mobility. That's one we maybe didn't talk about, is that, you know, a lot of people want to know, can they rise? Can they grow? And in an SME or a startup environment, sometimes the answer is you don't know. If your business is successful and you grow, then you can provide opportunities for growth and mobility. But it's not like, you know, at a Deloitte or something where you enter as a junior associate, then you're an associate, then you're a senior associate, then you're a manager, then you're a principal, and you have these clear ladders up. SMEs can't promise that, nor should they. Whereas a larger brand is more specialized and layered. So I think that goes back to culture, where you have to find people who are there for the ride with you, right? Who get excited by this notion of, if I can help grow this business, I'm rewarded with new opportunities that I can't necessarily conceive of, right? And I could quickly find myself even in a sort of C-suite position in my 20s or 30s because I've really helped this business grow. And I know it better than anyone. Whereas if you go to work for Unilever or Safaricom, you might have a nice salary now, but you're not going to be CEO of that company probably ever, at least until your 60s, best case. So you need to find the personality types, right? Where people are comfortable with uncertainty, they're excited by growth, they're a little bit more risk accepting, or perhaps people who are, I've heard this notion of rock, oh no, I'm gonna forget what it is. I'll have to think of it later. But there's basically, you have some people who are, they're an engineer and they want to be a chief technology officer, right? They're a salesperson, they want to be the chief sales officer. Then you have some people who are just really, really good at sales or really, really good at engineering, and they don't want to manage people because that's not their personality type. So if you can find those people and give them the opportunity and give them the incentives to be the best salesperson they can for a lot of years, or the best engineer they can be for a lot of years, they don't expect to have a managerial role. You're not likely to give them one, but you can make it worth their while because they can grow the business and you can grow with them. Then I think that's a good fit for you. So it all kind of circles back to me to, yeah, culture fit, finding the right incentives, and trying to, yeah, test for these kind of personality traits.
Hey, thank you. So I think just for anyone that's just joining us, we are currently discussing some of the issues that SMEs are experiencing in terms of navigating and understanding the talent acquisition landscape. So please feel free to chime in, share what into the topic in the chat section. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them on the Q&A tab. We will be handling those at some point as we continue. Okay, so maybe just to bring it back onto our key focus on SMEs, I think it would be good for us to be able to address some of the myths and misconceptions surrounding the talent acquisition landscape in that context. So maybe I can call on you again, Boris, to just share what are some of the common myths and misconceptions around talent acquisition for SMEs.
Sure, thank you. I think I thought of 5. I think it's a good question. It took me a minute, but I thought of 5. I think one big one for me is that degree. So one myth, perhaps, or maybe a misconception, is that your degrees, your diplomas, your certificates, or those of the talent pool really matter as compared to what a candidate has done or achieved, or what they might be able to achieve. I mean, when I think about my career in Kenya running business and hiring, hundreds of people, the people who have excelled and grown the most are often the people who on paper maybe weren't the most qualified for that job, but they had done something previously that suggested to me that they really could do that job, and they were hungry, right? And again, this speaks to culture and personality fit for your business. So if you are looking for a salesperson, and someone is running a community organization, and you think, oh, you haven't really done sales. Well, if they've gathered, dozens of people in their community around a particular cause, and they've been able to affect change in their community or their church group or whatever it is, that's sales. They're selling a cause, they're selling an initiative, they're selling an organization. It's just not called sales. So do they have a track record of results? And that's why I said get results as top talent, not do they have a degree from X university and X specialty, business, blah, blah, blah. There's exceptions, obviously, engineers, lawyers, anything in the medical profession. Of course, you need the qualifications. But if you're talking about HR, customer service, sales, to me, I'm much more results oriented. And so I'd say don't get bogged down in titles and qualifications and things like that. There's a lot of really talented people out there who are hustling and doing something that may sound on paper different than what you're hiring for. But if you look into like the sort of underlying skill sets and soft skills, they can be a great fit for you. Another one is that you need to compete for salary with Safaricom and the likes. You can't, and you don't need to. I've not been able to find great data for Kenya or for East Africa, but I know there's a lot of research in the US that shows in the US, where of course we're dealing with different benchmarks, but above $75,000 a year, people, the impact of salary increases is reduced. So it's like these sort of marginal, small, like reducing returns basically on salary increases. So I'm sure there's that same line in Kenya, and it's somewhere less than $75,000. And again, that speaks to incentives, right? So don't think that if you just throw money and that you pay people, they're going to be retained and they're going to do better. That's really not necessarily the case. So what are the other, is it mobility? Is it flexibility? Is it shared incentives that you can offer people? Also, there's a kind of misconception that you can or should keep people forever. We talk about retention. Obviously, you want to get your return on investment. You want to retain people, but you can't keep people forever. They won't stay forever. None of us, probably outside of perhaps our parents' generation, in some cases, know anyone who worked for the same company their whole life. That really doesn't exist anymore. I think that's probably for the better. So assume that people will leave at some point and plan for it. And ideally plan with them. Again, if you create a environment of, a culture of trust, you can have these conversations and don't get surprised when someone hands in their notice, and be ready for it and have a backup plan and be proud of whatever they go on to next. Another misconception that I've fallen victim to is that if you throw a bit of more money to attract someone who's come from these big corporations and these big brands, then you'll get a commensurate return on investment. So you say, wow, this salesperson who worked for Procter & Gamble is, is more 25% more expensive than this other person who worked for this petrol station I've never heard of. I'm going to go for them because they know how it's done. They've done it at a high level. I think that's a dangerous game, and I haven't seen it pay off. Like we said, it's a very different culture and it's hard to mesh. Those people come from an environment of structure, of certainty, of scale, lots of people, and a result, extreme specialization. So, they're not necessarily even going to expect to make their own tea or go get their own, paper from the printer, or whatever the case may be. And you need them to kind of step up and step out of their role. That's what happens in an SME or a startup. We need to adapt, wear hats that, don't necessarily align with our official title all the time. And there's less I think you can expect less innovation from those type of people. I'm casting a broad brush, but that's just my experience. Less acceptance of failure, less acceptance of uncertainty and risk. And they're not used to having blank canvases. I think the excitement of an SME or a startup is you have blank canvases that you can paint, and that's a creative and innovative process. Whereas at a big corporation, it's more like you're managing an art museum, and there's beauty in that, but it's a totally different kind of paradigm. So I wouldn't fall victim to that. And then I'd say the last misconception is that a job description is kind of pro forma and just a thing you have to do to get it out there. I think so many job descriptions I see are so bad, and that's going to attract you so much noise and kind of low quality talent. If you're putting things like must work well in teams, must be a good multitasker, must be a good verbal and written communicator, you're just wasting your breath, because, unless you're a lighthouse operator, what job doesn't require working well in teams? What SME job doesn't require multitasking? You're just describing a job. You've got to go more specific. You've got to set yourself apart. You've got to describe your culture, the kind of energy, the soft skills, the personality you're looking for, so you can find that diamond in the rough out there. Stay away from these generalistic cliches. Otherwise, you're overwhelmed with low quality applications or applications that are really not suited to you. Yeah. So I think those are my 5.
Thank you, Boris, for sharing into that. Kavina, I don't know if you want to add on to the area of talent acquisition, even before you delve into some of this myths and misconceptions around talent retention.
Okay, I was just smiling all along because I agreed with everything Boris said, especially the bits where we hire people from corporate. And I've been in those interviews. They are very, very impressive for an SME because they say the right things. They push the right button. But what we don't realize is that this person found a system that was working, and you hire them to put in the system, to put the system in place, and 9 out of 10 times they fail. And it's very frustrating for them because they're not lying, they're describing their job, but you don't realize that they actually didn't create what they're talking about. They found it. They found working systems. They found SOPs in place, and things are just, everything's ducks in a row. And they also are able to hire really good talent that speak really well. And we really, really struggle in SME. So as Boris said, we need to be in a space in SME that where you realize you need to create. So create together with people. It's even cheaper if you get people who are learning the process or learn the process together. And the other thing I totally agree with is education. Your papers are not as important as the productivity or the performance, or your papers don't translate. So many times it's getting more and more common that we ignore your qualifications and look more at your experience and your ability. So even in the interview, I'll see your qualification and that's okay, but I'll not dwell on that in more. I'll dwell more on your experience, your capability, your ability to get the work done. And we'll even give the job to someone who has no papers at all, as opposed to that person who has a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, is working on their second master's and has never worked. Because this person with experience brings in more to the business or to the table than one who just has the education. Yeah, so in terms of recruitment, that's what I'd say. So did you want me to, what was the second question?
I think it was just around the two key areas, just recruitment and then retention. So I think we've well covered some of the myths and misconceptions around recruitment. So maybe we can try and, have a look at some of this as well in the area of talent retention.
Okay, and I know you've covered a lot already around talent retention. So we can just add to the same discussion. And we talked earlier about learning and development. Knowing that you'll not get people who are ready is something that as a business owner, you need to just accept. That they'll come and you'll need to train them. So putting together a training program and also giving it time. And knowing that if you want to get someone who will hit the ground running, then you need to be ready to pay more. So if all you can pay is like 30,000, and that would be one of the starter level salaries, is to know that then you can only expect so much from that person. So put together then training programs, or give them time to work, attach them to someone who they will learn under, and because this is someone who you can plan like the next 3 years with, that I'm going to be with this person for the next 3 years, and then think, where would they stay with you? And one of the conversations I had, I think yesterday, is with someone who wants to go to school, does not have the money for it. So having a discussion with this person and saying, how can we together pay for this training program? Because then if you're able to help them pay for the training program and you're able to bond them. So bonding is where you come up with an agreement that they work for you for a certain period of time, and you'll pay for their education or for their training, which then keeps them for like 3 years with you. And 3 years is a long time. And as Boris said earlier, make peace with people leaving. So if you plan such that in 3 years they can leave and that's okay, you've helped them pay for their courses or go to school or go for training, and you bond them for 3 years, then it's a win-win for both parties. So that would be one. 2 weeks ago, I was training doctors. I had a whole room of doctors, and we were looking at their top nurses, their the specialized nurses. So I learned that not all nurses are living in drafts. The general nurses, that they don't have a problem with that. It's specialized nurses who are leaving. So then and specialized doctors, but the doctors is not even such a big problem with the talent flight. It's mostly specialized nurses who are all leaving to go to Canada and the US traditionally, but now even Asia. They go to Qatar, Dubai. So if you're in a space like that, where I cannot compete with the salaries that this specialized nurse is going to get in Canada, then to be proactive, they are going to leave. Then what are you going to do to make sure then that you retain talent? And the bigger level 6 hospitals have their own they have their own colleges. So they have the nursing college. So they have a supply chain. They're supplying their own talent. So you as a small business, a small clinic, what are you to do with this situation? Because your theater nurse will still leave. They will be poached, and there are all these agencies that help them with their visas and everything, and they help them to leave. So being proactive, knowing that they will leave, working with other entities that are similar to you, are struggling because they're all struggling together, having a relationship with the larger entities that have supply chain. They have a whole college that, right? I don't think they have universities. They have more of colleges that produce talent working together. So collaborating with others in the market will help you with retention, will help you to find good talent, and will help you to plan for the exit, because the exit is coming for some. So not everyone has that problem, but there are people who have serious problems, like the health industry. Then there are industries that have seasonal problems, like the hospitality industry. You have a lot of talent, and then something happens and you need to lay off everyone, like maybe during elections, and then things, if it's not very peaceful, then you need to shut down your hotels. So just having a plan around that exit, because they need to exit, then maybe after 6 months, then you need to get them back. So having a long-term plan, so that then you're not caught flat-footed, you are not surprised. Yeah, so just working with the dynamics of your industry helps you with retention. And as Maguire said earlier about salaries. So as small businesses, we might not be able to afford high salaries. However, employees need to see progressive increase in their salaries. Progressive. So if I come in at 30, I need to be able to see that, progressively I'll get to 40, then we get to 50. And after like 5-6 years, I'm at 70. If after 6 years, we're still at the same salaries the salary that I came in, it's not a surprise when that person leaves you. So businesses then have to do everything to grow and grow the talent that they have, and plan for people to see growth in their own personal finances. Especially if they can see you growing, you can see you buying new machines, open new branches, and they're not seeing any benefit that is coming to their person, then retention is going to be a problem. So planning all that, and those are just several dynamics that we need to consider for talent retention, and there are quite a number that we can keep discussing. So back to you.
Thank you for that. And I think I like that you're also bringing up the point on planning for people leaving, because I think I was having a discussion with someone much older at some point, and they said, times have changed. Initially, people would get a role in a company and they'd stick and hold on to it for a while. And right now, however, now things are a bit different, where people get into the company and then they give themselves about 2 years and then they leave. So I think that's very insightful for people to actually plan around that particular aspect. I can see we have Njiru Njagi, who has just taken us back a bit to the topic on corporate to SME, and says that for that aspect, the company needs to be certain on where they are in the company life cycle. If the SME is in a very starry up phase, where they are still trying to establish the product market fit or the proper pricing levels, or the founder owner must be involved in the decision making, then the potential candidate from corporate to the SME may struggle unless this is mentioned in the forefront. If the SME is at a scale-up phase where the SOP or systems are being set up, the corporate candidates can be useful in bringing the experience into the SME. Thank you, Njiru, for that contribution. Please feel free, for those that are just joining us, to continue sharing with us your insights into these different aspects in the chat section. I think there is a very important aspect that Boris brought up a bit back when we were discussing some of these challenges around technology. And so I think it's something we have to accept, that we are in a period where this every aspect of business is being affected by technology. So maybe as I'd like to bring you back on, Boris, just so that you can share how is technology reshaping or redefining the talent acquisition and retention process, and maybe how this would look like for us within the next few years.
Yeah, thanks. Well, tech is my space, so I like to think that it's changing things a lot and for the better, and it's somewhat of a democratizing force. Ultimately, recruitment, historically, talent acquisition has been a major cost center. I think it need not be as much so these days. You know, with access to something like LinkedIn, we can access thousands and thousands of people if done right, and at almost no cost at all, on top of all the different more regional and specific type platforms. Just the ability to communicate online has made it vastly easier and cheaper to get your job opportunities in front of a more diverse set of eyeballs. And, you know, like diverse can also mean global, depending on the nature of your business, as we said. So that global talent pool, especially if you're in a business that is suitable to remote work, is democratizing, because you can go look in other countries where there might be the kind of specialist that you're looking for that might not be there in your local community for whatever reason. So it's cheaper, it's faster, and it's more competitive. So whether it's advertising, distribution, whether it's the speed of vetting applicants, we've seen kind of semi-intelligent applicant tracking systems for a while that kind of pull out keywords from CVs and stuff like that. Frankly, I haven't loved those, but they've just been a precursor to now real, true, you know, generative AI that can really make assessments for you, or at least do a lot of shortlisting for you. And I think a really interesting opportunity that I've seen discussed recently is this notion of like non-linear careers. So we tend to think of our careers as linear, like I'll progress upwards. I might go from different companies, but I move my career is as a salesperson. I'm getting stronger in the area of sales or HR or whatever it may be. But generative AI now presents a capacity to allow candidates to upload their profile, match skills and interests, and that can then give you insights to careers and job changes that, you know, to which your skills might be transferable to. So as an applicant, that's really broadening, right? You don't just have to look for sales roles if you don't want to. You can perhaps use tech tools to broaden your horizons and change your careers, and that gives you more opportunity and reduces the risk that if, you know, the segment or the industry that you're in has a decline for whatever reason, you can adapt more quickly to something else. On the other hand, tech sets the skills bar higher. I mean, I think there's almost no business now where you wouldn't expect someone, or you wouldn't benefit from someone having some sort of Excel proficiency, as an example. And there's much discussion about jobs being, you know, eliminated by artificial intelligence. I think the best quote I've heard on that is, AI is probably not going to replace you, but somebody who's really good at using AI might. So you have to keep up with the times, and you have to continue to learn, right? The tech that, if you're like me and you're about 40, the tech you learned 20 years ago, you know, is not highly competitive in the market. So you have to learn the tech of today, and you have to learn the HR systems of today, or the CRMs of today, or the data analytics tools of today. And there's a baseline assumption that everyone can do that. There's no longer this notion of the IT guy, right? Everyone's supposed to have some IT skills. And luckily, there's also a lot of free learning and development, or low-cost learning and development opportunities. YouTube, Udemy, Khan Academy, these kind of things are hugely valuable to people of even the lowest resource can access these. So again, democratizing but increasingly competitive, I think, is ultimately the influence of tech. So as an employer, you need to keep up. You need to be utilizing these tools to recruit faster and more efficiently and find more talent and compete globally. But then as an employee, equally, you need to keep up with the baseline set of skills, and you need to learn how to kind of navigate these channels to get yourself in front of the employers you want to be employed by, because you're competing globally and you're competing with thousands rather than dozens that you might have been, say, you know, 50 years ago or something.
Okay. Thank you for those insights, Boris. I think we have definitely taken so much time to go over the first segment for this particular topic. And I know earlier, you know, Kevin had already begun the conversation on the role that leadership in the organization plays in terms of retention. of top talent. So I don't know if there's any other, on top of what you had shared earlier, Kevina, are there any other, points you would like to share around the role that organizations, leadership, also the strategic direction play in retention of top talent, as we wind up the first segment?
Okay. So I'd say previously we do like performance management. So it's say sit with someone, look at their goals and their KPIs. And you find that if you don't bring in the aspect of strategy, because then looking at where the business wants to go helps with coming up with KPIs and goals that help the organization get where it wants to go. So not having isolated, siloed goals by employee helps to achieve the overall goals. And for us to be able to do that, then leadership plays a big role. So when you're doing performance management, just taking teams back to what is it that you want to achieve? What are your goals for the year? And so what we managers to work with their teams to ensure that they are meeting the organizational goals and also the departmental goals down to the individual's personal goals. And leadership plays a really, really big role. You find that if line managers are first well identified and trained and guided, then you find that they are guiding their people well and more likely to achieve their goals. I say that because what we do, and Boris had mentioned that earlier, is we have an individual contributor who's doing extremely well. So what you do is we pick them and make them a leader. Naturally, you think that if they're doing this thing very well, then they should very easily train the rest of the team. And many times it fails. And also, even when it works, the difficulty that someone goes through, because we don't train, we don't have leadership training. We assume that if I just give you a new title and a letter, a new contract, that things will just naturally happen. So just that lack of leadership training makes it take so long to get people to perform at optimum. So the challenge here to us is making sure that we have focus on leadership, that first we identify people with leadership skills and those who are even interested in leading. Some are just not. Then training them to lead teams and just pointing back to strategy and what you want to achieve as a business, what behaviors you want to see, because that points back to culture, and teaching them and just working with them, training them, coaching leaders to lead. So leadership is important, but we fail in small businesses because we make assumptions. We assume that I'll just promote someone into a leader and things will work. They do eventually work many times, but it takes too long. There are so many casualties along the way. And as I also had said earlier, you as a business owner needs to identify your own gaps. And if it's training that you need, if it is coaching that you need, make sure that you're also growing. I've been working for over 15 years, but every day I'm amazed at the skills that I lack and also the availability of that same skill out there. And just being willing to join training programs, work with coaches, work with mentors, because it's a journey that doesn't end. So that's any business owner on the who's a participant today, that would be my challenge to all of us, to just sit back and say, what are my skills? What are my leadership skills? Allowing for people to speak to that gap and going out there to look for help, because there's a lot of help. There's training online that's available. There are coaches who are available to work with you. There's peer mentorship, working with other business owners who are going through what you're going through, because that's very important. It leads to retention and recruitment is expensive. Yeah, so that's what I'd say.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kevina, for that and for the challenge that has been thrown to anyone that's joining us, that's a business owner or that's a leader. in that setting, just to focus on leadership, train them to lead teams, and treat it as a journey that doesn't end. So I think we have come to the end of the first segment for this particular discussions. We still do have a second bit that will be coming up shortly. We are going to take a quick break. I know we are the ones that are standing between you and your dinner, wherever you're joining us from. So we're going to give you a quick break to just grab a cup of water before we go into the next bit of the discussion. And as we do the break, we're going to quickly put up a poll just to help us with the next part of the discussion, just to understand how long you have been able to retain your employees as a business owner. So I will be launching a poll that should be showing up on your screen. For those that are just joining us as well, sorry, just give me a minute. For those that are just joining us as well, please feel free to interact with the poll. We have just finished the first bit of this particular discussion where we just generally covered key areas to help us understand the talent acquisition landscape. Among small and medium-sized businesses, we have gone through a number of challenges that our SMEs are facing in this particular aspect regarding recruitment, as well as regarding retention of top talent. We have also had a comparison on these problems, whether they're unique to SMEs or also affecting larger corporations. We've also gone through different myths and misconceptions around talent acquisition and retention as well. And then lastly, had a look at, how technology is impacting this particular landscape, as well as the role the organization's leadership and strategic direction play in retention of top talent. So there is a poll on the front of your screen that is ongoing. And in the meantime, I will allow us to take a quick break as the participants are interacting with the poll. Please don't go anywhere. Grab your water and come back. We still have one last bit to cover, and then we can call it a night. So yeah, please feel free to interact. I have 11 of us out of 41 of us who have interacted with the poll. So please interact with us on that as we take the quick break. So for those who still have questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A section. I can already see a question for Boris. We will be having a session towards the end to go through the different questions that you have sent for our speakers. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A tab. For those that want to continue interacting with us, please do so on the chat section. So I will give us a few more. 2 more minutes to interact with the chat before we continue. Okay, so I can see we have 15 out of I can see 15 out of 40 of us have interacted with the chat. Guys, please continue. With the poll, please continue giving us your responses. As a business, typically, how long have you been able to retain your employees? Let's see whether you've been able to retain your employees within, a year. Is it 2 years, 3 years? Have you been able to do this over 3 years? Please continue sharing that with us. And if you've already done so, you've grabbed your water and your bag, please give us a thumbs up. If you have already done so, you're back from your quick break, please give us a thumbs up so that we can know that we are back. Naftali, I can see your question. Please copy paste that question in the Q&A tab. It's a very, very important question and a very good question. Just put it in the Q&A tab so that we can address it during the Q&A session. Okay. So our timekeeper can let us know if the break time is over so that we can continue. Okay, so I think break time is over. I hope you are able to grab your water. I know we are the ones who are standing between you and your supper. Worry not, we will be finishing up very soon. So if you're back, please give us a reaction. Let's see how many of us are back to our session so that we can carry on with the second bit. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly end the poll. Okay. Great. So I think we can proceed. Before we continue, I'm just going to read and see what is on the chat. I think there's a comment there, Kevina and Boris, from someone, Nival, who says, it's easy to pick top talent, but not easy to retain because some start to underperform after a short while. And you wonder if it's the same candidate you recruited, especially when the company has much expectations from the candidates. Okay, and then I can see a few questions which we will be covering during the Q&A session. So guys, please continue interacting with us. I think we can proceed. So I'm just going to share the poll that was done so that our speakers also have visibility on that. So the question was, as a business, how long have you been able to retain your employees? And so you can see we have 3 out of the 16 who responded said 1 year, 4 out of the 16 said for 2 years typically, and for 5 out of the 16 say 3 years, and we have 4 who say for over 3 years that they've been able to retain their talent for over 3 years. So those are the results that we have from that, and I think this is just going to help us as we begin the second bit of this particular discussions, and mainly around some of the remedies to proper talent acquisition and retention to help us develop different strategies on that. Sorry. Okay, so Yeah, so we are all back. I can see our speakers are back. So as we transition into our second session, we want to shift our focus towards actionable strategies to ensure proper talent acquisition and retention. And maybe I can begin by bringing in Kevina. So, what are some of the practical strategies and best practices that SMEs can use to affordably, recruit top talent? So what can they employ to effectively recruit this top talent while navigating any budgetary constraints?
Okay. So it depends on the position. So there are positions that you can just go to the source, go to where these people are. If you're the one recruiting by yourself, if you're using a recruitment agency, we would also do the same. For example, recently we were recruiting for someone in the construction industry. So finding communities that, because all professions have their own little communities on Facebook, they have WhatsApp groups. So just finding people who have access to these groups, finding these groups and where they are, reaching out, using influencers even within those groups, because there could be people in those groups who are known, putting out the interest would be one of the cheaper ways that we use to hire. But also just knowing people who know people. Like we have one of our team members in our recruitment team who just knows a lot of people. So whenever we have certain positions, just getting to her, and you'd be amazed at how they know someone who knows someone. Would be ways that we use, and I leave the technology to Boris. So Boris will tell us the tech bits, because there's that as well. So I'll just concentrate on that business owner who has a position, and they're the ones who are hiring, probably don't have access to the technology. And just talking to people that your referrals work, though you need to be careful with the referrals, because if it's referrals from maybe family members or friends, and then the connection is too close, you find that now when you employ them and they're not performing, you struggle to send them away. You struggle to take punitive action or disciplinary action. So you need to be careful with that, so that you're saying that if you get referrals from people or people like maybe your own family, they still need to go through the full recruitment process. You need to hire them on merit. They need to be able to do their job. And even when they come on board, making sure that they are aligned with the policies and procedures, and that you're fair with everyone. And we keep saying, if you cannot be able to fire them, maybe it's family and still go for a family function, then don't even get into that space. So these are cheaper ways to hire. But whatever way that you hire, then you must align with what you really need. Like we said earlier, not conventional organizational competencies that, you need to know that, like if communication is important for us, if integrity is important to us, if like maybe writing skills are important to us because we write a lot, if admin skills are important because that's something that is important to us, or certain technical skills, then you want to identify those. So as you are, because when we say cheap ways, because one expensive way is to keep recruiting, keep filling that position. It's too expensive. It takes 6 months to a year for a new employee to settle in. So if you're going to keep replacing a position every 3 months, then it's just too expensive for the business. So just taking your time to understand the needs, taking your time to understand how the competencies would look as you are hiring for them at the point of maybe interviewing, at the point of screening. Understanding that well enough will help you keep your costs down, because the cost is the cost of the hiring and also cost of replacement if you need to replace someone. And if you need to work with someone, working with a team that also understands you, understands where you want to be, understands culture, the culture that you have, so that when you're hiring also for culture, hiring for soft skills. And there's a question on the group there about integrity. So being able to measure some of these things, you may not be able to get it 100%. Like integrity is difficult to measure, and that's why they put that question sits there on the in the Q&A. But thinking of your own manual ways of recruiting, strategic scenario questions that you can give the participants or the job seeker, doing background checks, because even beyond asking questions, you need to just do your background checks. And I keep saying background checks is not the 3 names on the CV, because who would give you a name of someone who will give them bad feedback? Yeah, that won't happen. So what are the creative ways that you can go and get feedback? Get to talk to people who you're sure worked with them, their supervisors, working with a background check company that we work with, Peleza International, who know how to find the feedback, and they can tell you if there's a criminal record, because people have ways of erasing these records from their CV, from their career. I will not talk about a 3-month stint somewhere if I was fired, and it's very easy to hide that in the CV. I'll just, merge it with the next job. So just being able to trace these spaces that, people are in, compare maybe with LinkedIn, see if there are any gaps that you can interrogate gaps. So these are easier, cheaper ways to hire. And then it depends on the position. There are positions that you headhunt. You headhunt higher level positions. You want a CEO? That's mostly a headhunting. But you still put out the ad, but mostly you'll find that people through headhunting. If it's lower level position, the lower it is, then the more you need to be unique about how you hire. So this time last year, we were working with a nail salon, and we were looking for nail technicians, and ads did not solicit any applications. So we'd have to, we didn't ask for a CV because we knew these people probably don't have CVs. So we just put a WhatsApp number and say, send your number to this WhatsApp number, and then we'd call the number. And that was very effective. So it depends on what position that you are filling. And we fill all ranges of positions. As I said, we fill CEO positions, and we also fill as low as a nail technician position. So then we need to know if this position, this is how we go about it. If it is a technical estate maintenance or construction maintenance, then find people in the construction industry. If it's a CEO, you want to find them on LinkedIn. You want to headhunt, find competitors of the client that you're hiring for. Or if it's yours, look for your competitors, maybe people who've worked there before. LinkedIn works very, very, very well. Yeah, like this time we were hiring someone in Uganda, and so what we did is we looked for keywords that were similar to the were attached to the business that you are hiring for. Then we searched for these keywords, and then they gave us companies that would be aligned with these keywords. Then we just went to LinkedIn, looked for these people, interest them. And we were able to fill that position and do a good job. So there are different ways to fill different positions, and they don't need to cost you too much, but it's important to put in some effort in it, and it will cost you in terms of time. Okay, and I leave Boris to speak about the tech bit, because I know there's that as well.
Sure. Just should I address the questions in the Q&A related to tech?
I think we can cover the questions right after this particular segment. Right. So I think maybe what I can try and bring in to this particular point is, Kevina, you had mentioned that recruitment and retention are same but different. So in that similar aspect around, some of the practical strategies that SMEs can adopt, especially, and I think also Boris had brought the aspect of where SMEs are also competing with the larger organizations who may offer more extensive resources to these entrepreneurs. So, I mean, sorry, not entrepreneurs, to their employees. So with your expertise in this area, so what are some of these challenges that SMEs can implement to affordably now retain their valuable employees in that aspect? So we can have you go, and then Boris can add on to that.
Sorry, Veronica, I lost you for a few moments. Please repeat what you said.
Sorry, can you?
I lost.
No worries.
Yes, I can hear you, but I'd lost you for a moment.
Okay, so I was bringing that the aspect that you had mentioned, recruitment and retention being same but different. And so in the same aspect of, strategies that SMEs can implement to recruit. So in this aspect of retention, especially where SMEs are competing with much larger organizations that can offer more extensive resources to their employees. So what are some of the strategies that SMEs can implement to then affordably retain their valuable employees?
Okay, all right. So being cognizant of the fact that there are aspects about larger organizations that are actually negative to someone's career, and you have positive aspects of the same in smaller businesses. One of them being the fact that decisions in SME are made very fast. So you have access to the business owner, and just making use of that, allowing for people to have access to you, making decisions quickly, involving them in the decisions that are made, especially that one, involving them in solving problems, so they don't wake up and now we are moving. No one knew that we were moving. We don't even know why we are moving. Involving them in decisions that you make, key decisions, like working with a client who moved from town to like Ruaka. So, and when we were talking with employees, they were very unhappy with that move, because then now, if I lived in Syokimau, I only had to take one matatu into town. Now I have to take one matatu into town, and then another one to Ruaka, because that's more costly. And just digging a bit into that, when we talked to the business owners, there was very good reason why they moved. They had serious issues with the building they were in CBD. There are all these conflicts, there's political rallies that make them have to shut down and not work on certain days. So involving employees in these decisions, just sitting with them and saying, this is an issue, what do you think we should do, helps you with retention. It helps you with that move, that particular move that you'll still make. Involving people in decisions really makes a big difference, especially younger people. Gen Z want to be involved in the decisions. They don't have to wake up and find such a major change happened and they had no clue that that was actually in the pipeline. And when you look back, it's something that has been brewing for a whole year and no one brought them in to the table to just discuss the options. Yeah, so that should be a way that we retain talent and retain talent easily. And as I said earlier, communication is one of the things that we always find is a problem when you do engagement surveys. So what are you going to do to make sure that people are in the know of what is happening? So problem solving, involving people in problem solving, helps with retention, giving people a voice, giving people a space to complain, a space to share their grievances. And grievances could be sexual harassment. Grievances could be feeling overworked. If you're understaffed, then obviously people are doing more than before, and you want to do something about it. You want to have that discussion so that you're problem solving together. You can tell them these are our challenges. This is why we can't, if it's salaries, this is why we can't give you bonuses this year. This is why we don't have salary increments this year, but this is the plan for next year. And rewards. So I've not talked a lot about money, but money is important. We work for money. So, and people make decisions around money. So just making sure that the money that you pay, because you can't match that big corporate, is fair. Let it be fair that if I find out what my colleague earns, I'll not feel disgruntled because we do the same thing, but my colleague earns more than I earn. So fairness in remuneration is something that is very important. And in SME, we try to keep it very secret. I really don't know why we should do that. And because if it is fair, there's no reason that it should be too confidential, and it should be something that we tell people not to discuss, and let people discuss, and people get to know. So when they get to know, do they feel that it is fair? So fair remuneration across board, because they see how much you make, having these discussions, because sometimes how much you make is misconstrued as money that's available to everyone, and it's all and it brings a lot of disgruntlement. So just even explaining to the team where the money goes, how the money is distributed, your budgets, involving people in such decisions that you make helps them understand the decisions that affect them. So there's all this that you need to do, and there's a strategic direction. Just saying, this is who we are, this is where we want to go, this is how we'll get there, this is how you play a role in that journey, helps with retention. So there's a lot, which means then all these things are decisions and ideas that business owners should be thinking through as they do everything that they do. Because we say if your employees are taken care of, they will take care of the customer. And vice versa. If employee is disgruntled, you can bet for sure your customer will not be happy. There's no way you have to give out of what you have. So if they are unhappy, then they are giving from a place of empty, then your customer is struggling. So just thinking about employees. And sometimes as business owners, we really struggle with that. Like, I've done so much for these people, they like to just complain. But I say, if they're complaining, something is not right, then we need to just go back to the table and find out what is it that people are not happy about, and what can we do about it. And if we can't do anything about it, just going back to them and saying, these are our limitations, so there's only so much that we can do, but these are the options, and also allowing them to speak to the situation and give their ideas.
Thank you for that. And I think, as Boris, even as you contribute to that same question on how SMEs can affordably retain top talent, I think the aspect of tech that Kevin was trying to bring in, I know when people hear tech, they just know they're about to spend a lot of money into it. So is there aspects of that SMEs can know how to navigate in the most affordable way, either during recruitment process or
I'll try to take the tech question first. Sure, tech can be very expensive. So I'd say, but you have to think about the ROI. But equally, there are increasingly, and here I am to plug WorkPay a little bit, there are increasingly more and more local solutions, and local solutions are built locally, they're designed locally, they target a local market. So if you're using a recruiting tool out of Silicon Valley or Europe or Asia or something, it may not be optimized for the unique quirks of the African market, and B, it's not going to be priced accordingly. It's not going to have people on the ground. So I'd say, buy local if you can. Like, Kenya's the Silicon Savannah. There's an incredible wealth of tech talent and tech options. There's great stuff coming out of Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa, increasingly Rwanda. So don't assume that there isn't something local, even if you haven't heard about it. And what I will concede is that there is the culture of negotiation here, right? Everything's negotiable, nothing is fixed. You can't negotiate with Google, you can't negotiate with HubSpot. You can negotiate with local firms on whatever basis, that you're big and you're going to be with them for a long time, that maybe you're a social impact organization. Things are negotiable. Local companies are trying to grow and establish themselves, so they're willing to hear you out and have that discussion. So take advantage of that. Don't assume tech is expensive, but equally, like, tech is an investment, and it's not just the money you spend. And I think there is a perception amongst maybe less technical people that, if I pay for WorkPay, I click a button and WorkPay solves all my problems. Well, no, you need to get your employee data in there. So if you've kept poor employee records for a long time and they aren't digitized, well, you're going to have to invest time up front to digitize them and get them into WorkPay. We can't, read the papers that are in your cabinet. And you're going to have to, make sure someone on your team becomes an expert in that tool. So just be ready to invest time, not just money. And I actually think you'll see more ROI. The time will actually be more costly, frankly. It will be more of a hardship. There's more opportunity cost to employee time, but there's much more ROI on that, and you won't have them constantly. And don't just allocate it to your most junior person. Hey, you're young, you're an intern, whatever. You figure out this tech thing. No, like, who's it going to benefit most within the organization? Have them be experts and have multiple experts in the technology, because again, people leave. And so you have a continuity problem. And so I think people forget that kind of like maintaining that institutional technical knowledge is really important. And if you're the owner of a very small business, you have a handful of employees, then you need to know all the technology, because again, your people are going to leave. So you need to understand how everything works. And maybe just to add to what Kavina says, I would say just like, don't overlook how important the incredibly small stuff can be to retention. When I became the MD of Orb Energy, we were in a very cash-strapped situation, and it's a very high working capital requirements business. You always have cash flow challenges. We hadn't raised money. And some of the managers, when I started on, were saying to me things. I said, what can we do to sort of like motivate the team and solve some of these problems we have? And they were saying, we really haven't had t-shirts in a long time. And I remember my initial reaction was like, are you kidding me? Like, in this environment, you want me to go invest in t-shirts? Like, I couldn't believe this manager suggested it. And I had this initially like very negative, judgmental reaction to that suggestion as sort of like amateur, juvenile suggestion, like, come on, let's think big strategy. And then I started to hear it from more people, and I started to see the pride with which people wore these old t-shirts that were worn out or had this old brand. And eventually I came around to it, and I spent 10,000 shillings on shirts for everyone, and people were so excited. It made such a big difference. And whether it's that, or it's taking someone to tea, or buying them a beer, or sitting down and giving face-to-face really emphatic positive feedback, I do think goes an incredibly long way. And in an SME or startup environment, it can be high stress, and we can kind of gravitate towards the negative, right? Oh, you lost this deal, you messed this up, you made this mistake. That's easy to pick out. But if you take time every day, every week to find someone and tell them what they did really, really well, even if it's just the basic foundation of their job, just, you kick ass at this. I never have to worry about it. You do it well every day in and day out. And I'm really grateful for that. Like, I do think that goes a long way, and again, speaks to culture. And I think that all speaks to retention.
Thank you. Amazing. And maybe just to connect to all these strategies that you're sharing, any chance you could give us, so maybe some of the businesses that are joining us are wondering, can I get some practical examples of businesses that have been able to, successfully recruit and also retain top talent, maybe at an affordable price? Maybe you can start with you, Kavina, if you have any practical examples that you can share where some of the business owners joining us here can take key lessons from.
So would you like us to name names? Or just give examples?
You can give some examples.
Okay, Sawa. All right. So I'll give an example of a client of ours who's a mall, and they have 9 people on their team. And we've worked with them for the last 8 years. And I think they've lost only one person. Only one team member has left. And if I try and think back to like what could be the thing that keeps these people here, I'd say without a doubt, it is the leader, without any doubt. It's the person that she is. It is so, and maybe I'll describe her, because then that gives us a good understanding. So she's very objective. She's very fair. She works in a very difficult environment in terms of the board and the board expectations, but she will never throw people under the bus. She will stand in for them. She will speak up for them. She'll come back later and tell you off in person. But then she will not like throw you under the bus. She'll not go and she'll take blame. She'll take blame for whatever has gone wrong. Then she'll come back to the team and say, okay, guys, we messed up. And, they'll find solutions to the problem. And what this does to the team is the team knows that they are valued, they are safe, so there's safety. And then what I had said earlier in terms of reliability, they have reliable income, luckily, so people are paid on time. There are no salary delays really hurt people, especially if there's for long periods of time. So it's reliable. They know the salary will be in my account on a certain day and it's there. And if there are changes, like all these changes with NSSF, housing levy, there's a lot of communication that goes out. And if they make any decision, people are told in advance. If changes happen, someone is told. And because they're a team of 9, then she's very personal. So she's available. She's available to speak with the team members. She has a real open door policy. You know, sometimes we say open door policy, but then no one ever comes to your office. But real open door policy. So I'd say this particular business, it's a mall. They've had amazing retention. They've only lost 1%, and it was even understandable. So it was a plumber. They're going to work in a place where they're going to just do a lot more, and even filling that position was pretty easy. So all this, as I described her, I was giving the reasons for retention, because these are also things that work for us, that when they have an issue, they will sit together and find a solution for it. If it's a tenant who's a problem, they'll sit together and, and discuss why the tenant is unhappy and what they need to do about it, and they'll find solutions to their problems. So that's one of the teams that I can just pick out and say have had very good retention, and I've given the reasons for that. There are still many others. There's some that I would say maybe 8 years for some businesses is a pipe dream. It's not possible because of just a lot of changes. And one of the ones that I'd say is a business that people have such, the employees gain such marketable skills that there'll be turnover, because they have very good training. So it's training ground for their people, and then they get poached. But they have 1, 2, 3 years, 10 years, and I think even that by itself is very good retention, because they know that they train very well, and their people will be poached, and they can't match some of the salaries that they are given out there. So then they have that plan. They know that people will leave, and it's okay. So 2 years with them is fine. So even 2 years is similar to this other 8 years, and even sometimes having people come in, bring in. They bring in good ideas, so they probably are not interested in the 8 years themselves. So they have 2 years, but that's for them is good enough. And I would say they've also done a really good job. I think those are the 2 that I feel like I could pick and give an analogy of.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I think I know we've taken much of the time, so just to move on to comparing, the Kenyan market and maybe any other market out there around this particular aspect. So for Boris, I know you've worked in even 5 other African markets. So what would you say are other markets doing differently compared to Kenya when it comes to both employee retention and also recruitment?
Yeah, that's a good question. What are the other markets doing differently? I mean, I think from what I've seen, there are other markets. Like if we look at South Africa, for instance, South Africa is a place where everything is cheaper than it is in Kenya, except for health insurance. And I have no idea why that is, but health cover is so expensive in South Africa. So that becomes, that is not, it is more common and acceptable for a small business or a startup to not offer that as part of their package, because it's just cost prohibitive. So the emphasis on salary, I think, is far greater. And then I think what I've seen in Lagos, where we also have a team, is just the traffic and the size of that city relative to Nairobi is even worse. And so there's even more of an emphasis on remote work and flexible work for anyone who can manage it for their business. I mean, we have people who when we require them to come in the office, it can take them 2 hours. And so it's just like not a sustainable requirement to have them come in all the time. So I think that, salary is emphasized more in South Africa relative to kind of benefits, whereas I think as compared to Kenya, and then I'd say in Nigeria, I've noticed the like flexibility has even greater value than it might in Nigeria. It's a good question. It's not something I've thought a tremendous amount about because I think I'm here, so I see the competitors and I see the clients and I see my own network, so I'm more familiar with Kenya. But perhaps it's a question I should reflect on more because we have to recruit in these markets. But those are two observations.
Okay, thank you for those. I think I will quickly just move on to the next so that we can have some time for the questions that are coming in. So again, just as I have you there, Boris, in terms of trying new ways to navigate this landscape. So what are some of the innovative recruitment and onboarding practices that can help the SMEs stand out and maybe capture the attention of top candidates?
Sorry, can you say that again? What are some of the innovative tools they can use?
Some of the innovative ways to, navigate the recruitment and onboarding process or practices that can help organizations stand out and also capture the attention of, this top talent that we are discussing.
I guess I would just try to lean into as many low-cost or free tools as are available to you. I mean, I think LinkedIn's been mentioned repeatedly, and lean into the employer branding there. Establish yourself with entry-level talent. Something we've tried to do, and that I've seen other startups do very successfully, is build connection to universities, whether formally with the administration and the career centers. That can be difficult sometimes. It can be a bit slow, or more informally with student groups. Show up those career days, invest in that, and then host opportunities for students to come, whether it's a hackathon or some sort of event, or offer free training, free sessions, look at CVs, that kind of thing. So build out an internship program where young, talented people come through your organization at a low cost and ideally stay with you from that lower cost foundational level. I mean, if you're paying an intern 15, 20K a month and they're great, and then they join you, the onboarding is so much quicker because they've already learned your product and your ways and your systems before that. Make it worth their while, make them proud to be there. And if they don't stay with you, make sure they're going back to their classmates and their peer groups and they're talking about how it was a great opportunity and they really enjoyed it. And get the name of your culture and your employer brand out there as much as possible. Because as much as people like to knock Gen Z, I'm a sort of middle or older millennial, I think. And I remember coming out of university and there were all sorts of knocks on us too. And we all live in our parents' basements and write blogs and whatever it was at the time. And I think every generation, casts aspersions on the next generation. And I think we should look to the positive. And, I've emphasized tech and innovation and being able to look at free tools. And I think you'll find Gen Z, however technical you think you are, can show you things that your phone can do that you had no idea. They can alert you to tools that are out there that, don't have a big name, but can provide a lot of, really high value impacts on your business. And so find those people, attract them early, and find their strengths instead of, concerning yourselves with what you might perceive as their weaknesses.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those insights. I think I will quickly move on to the questions so that we don't miss out on those. There was a lot of areas that we could have covered. So we're just going to quickly move on to the questions so that the ones that have been raised are well responded to. So I think we can start with the one on the medium cost HRM software. So we have a question on, from your experience, which medium cost HRM softwares would you recommend for an SME with about 100 staff? I think, Boris, you can have a go. And then...
Well, I'll lean into my obvious bias here, and recommend WorkPay to you. WorkPay's thesis really is that there is just as strong a need for HRIS and recruitment and performance management and payroll tools in Africa as anywhere else in the world. If anything, but it's harder here, right? We have a massive continent, massive amounts of talent, but the regulatory environments can differ so massively across borders. I mean, the difference between Ethiopia and Kenya, two neighbors, is huge when it comes to like statutory payroll taxes and things like that. There are big, really powerful global payroll tools, but none of them have taken on that challenge. WorkPay is taking on that challenge. We can run payroll in dozens of African countries. We have entities in dozens of African countries, and we are creating a flexible system where we can program up payroll for whether it's Djibouti or Eritrea or the Gambia, or Swaziland, or South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia. Big, small, we can spin up a payroll very quickly. And we have people on the ground who are committed to maintaining compliance and efficiency in these countries. And our theory is that if you're a huge multinational, you're going to lean into the huge multinational tech tools, right? You're going to get an SAP or something like that, and you have tens of thousands of dollars to spend on it globally. If you're tiny, a handful of employees, you can probably get by managing your employees and paying them through spreadsheets, and that's great. If you're in that 50 to 500 employees range, which is the big center of the bell curve in Africa, that's what keeps this economy ticking. You need a localized solution because spreadsheets aren't sufficient and you can't afford these big global tools. And so that's really our thesis. Our platform is built for SMEs. So if you've got 100 employees, and you want to manage them, you're looking at somewhere between 100 to 300 shillings per employee per month. It's very, very affordable, and you can manage their contracts, you can track their leave, you can offer them financial services like loans and earned wages and insurance. You can, all of your benefits, and you can run payroll and pay your employees to mobile money or to any of their Kenyan bank accounts very easily and efficiently. And, same goes for pretty much all countries in East Africa. So I would strongly recommend looking at WorkPay. And there was a question that was asking to speak about WorkPay and can it be used to track people who work out of the office? So we have a web portal for your admins, so your HR managers or your finance managers, whoever can manage all the employees, all their salaries, all their benefits, all their documents, all their leave, all their assets, their computers, their phones, etc. And then there is an employee portal that is mobile, through which employees can access their pay slips, they can request leave, they can file expenses, all of that kind of stuff. So it's certainly mobile enabled for employees in any context. If by tracking people, it's meant like tracking their location geographically, that's not something that we offer, and I'm not aware of that in the HRIS space, but it's interesting, and we're always trying to build out new features. So certainly feel free to reach out to us if that's something that you're interested in.
Thank you. Thank you so much for responding to that. I was actually just about to bring that second one in. I think there's also someone who is just sharing that they do have WorkPay, which only has the onboarding aspect and payroll, but not the performance management aspect.
That has historically been true, but we have just launched a beta version of a new performance management tool. It's called Ase. So it integrates with the WorkPay core platform, and it allows you to do two types of performance management frameworks. One is objectives and key results, OKRs. Other is BSC, balanced scorecard, which is more traditional weighted KPI type approach. So we now have a localized performance management platform fully integrated with our HRIS. And if you are an active client, we're looking for active clients who are open to testing that for free. So we get feedback, you get to be a first mover and use it for free. So it's called Ase, ASSAY. If you're a WorkPay client or not, and you're interested, reach out to your account manager or to our team. myworkpay.com, myworkpay.com is our website. And we can tell you about that performance management tool, and we can give you a free beta trial, see how that works for you. And the other one that's coming soon is recruitment. So we've typically not tried to compete with global recruitment tools, but we've decided we want to be end-to-end, truly end-to-end. So now it's going to be HRIS, payroll, payments, performance, recruitment, and also disciplinary management will be a new one this year.
Thank you for that. And maybe the last question for you, Boris, does WorkPay have a training module where companies can upload standard training topics? Maybe you can address that.
We do not right now, but that's another great idea. I think probably L&D is still a space we need to grow into.
Okay, thank you. So maybe Kevina, just to bring you into one of the questions here, how are career gaps such as COVID layoffs or raising children, say stay-at-home moms or dads, taken care of during recruitment?
Okay, so that's a good question because people worry if they've been away for a long time. So, and even for us, we worry if your CV has long gaps. If I see you've not worked for 5 years and I'm looking at your CV, I'd wonder about that. So one way to show, because even as you're away from work, there's what you're doing during that period of time. And as I said earlier, soft skills are very important. So if you are able to bring out that you're part of a team that does something that's not work related, some volunteer work, could be that you are a leader in a certain situation in church or whatever, you're able to bring out your leadership skills very clearly. So just your ability to show what you're doing, I mean, you're not just sitting and doing nothing during that period of time, but there's skills you're able to learn. So just being able to articulate that, but you need to think through that very, very clearly before you get to the interview, because that question will definitely be brought up. So, and even during this period of time, keeping yourself relevant, learning, if you show that, no, during this time I was learning, and this is the skill, this is the knowledge that I gained, also the skills that I gained. So this is speaking to the job seeker, but also you who's recruiting, knowing that that's not a reason to dismiss a potential candidate as long as they're able to show what they were doing during that period of time. And as we said, it doesn't need to be purely work related. It can be a space where they're picking soft skills, and soft skills are very, very important. That's what I'd say.
Hey, thank you so much, Kevina and Boris. I mean, there is a lot that we could cover. We have gone 3 minutes over the time. Thank you so much for engaging us in these areas around recruitment and retention, which was our key topic for this month. We have come to the end of our 2-hour session, and we can finally all have our dinner. However, please, as our technical team is sharing in the chat section, please, give us your feedback around the session so that we can know how to better, support you. And as we continue to tailor sessions for you moving forward, we'll know what areas you would want us to cover. I'm just going to reshare the contacts to Boris and WorkPay so that you're able to reach out to them there as well on the chat for those who are interested in taking conversations further with them. So please give us your feedback as well as follow our social media pages for all our partners as well that are being shared on the chat section. We have the WorkPay platform, Panisi HR, Family Bank, who are our sponsors for this particular webinar, as well as the wild social media pages. So as we have come to the end, I would like to just invite our panelists, our speakers for today to give quick closing remarks before we call it an evening. So we can start with you, Kevina. I can see you are ready to go.
Okay, thank you. So big thank you to everyone on the in this webinar. I can see we are 41 now. You are, I think, 50 or something like that earlier. We really appreciate your being here. And as we have discussed the last two hours, I am a HR consultant. I work with small businesses, and everything we discussed here, I do, or my team does. We do recruitment. And because we work primarily with small and medium-sized businesses, we understand your pain, we understand, we're very pragmatic and very relevant, because we use very simple and affordable ways to solve problems. We do performance management. And even as Boris said earlier, that there's a system for performance management, you'd still need to sit down and come up with the goals, come up with the KPIs that will feed into the system. So then we'll be able to help you figure these things out with the team and sit in with you in appraisals, because appraisals are very, the managers really dread appraisals if they are not communicated well enough. So we help with that. We help with recruitment, we do training, and the whole range of HR. So thank you for being with us this evening. And I'm going to post my email address on the group right now. And yeah, back to you, Veronica.
Thank you.
Oh,
Boris, we could have you do a quick close for us.
Sure. Well, yes, thanks, Veronica, for moderating us, and for Wild for hosting, as well as Family Bank for the sponsorship, and yeah, Kavina for the great insights, having worked so closely with so many SMEs. My background is more on the tech side of the SME space, so I feel like I've learned a lot today from Kavina as well. And I would just say, yeah, as SMEs trying to attract and retain talent, just remember, focus on the small stuff, really focus on culture, build a culture, and find people of the right personality and culture fit for you, who have that desire and excitement about uncertainty and risk and building something and creating things, as Kavina had said, not who want to come into a comfortable space and really keep their head down at their desk. I would focus on that over their qualifications and their papers, as we discussed, and then yeah, plan for them to leave. Lean into tech. There are lots of local options. It doesn't have to be expensive, and there's great things you can do even with Google Apps, which are all free to you. So really try to consider how tech can help you, and if you're interested in WorkPay as a HRIS employee management tool, or as a payroll tool locally in Kenya, really in any other African countries or across borders, or for performance management, as we said, as we're rolling that out, feel free to email me, or I've put our sales email in the chat, or if you go to our website, there's other contacts there as well. Happy to talk about it. There's never any commitment. We just like to talk to people, and even if it's something like learning and development that we can't offer you, we like to hear about it, and it makes us stronger. And we have lots of partners, folks like Kavina, and we can point you in the right direction for people who can help you, whether they're a technical solution or a consulting solution. We can always point you in the right direction if we're not the best solution for you. So hope to hear from many of our participants one way or the other. And thank you for staying up late with us.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Boris and Kavina. Guys, this is where we give them the love, the claps, the reactions. Appreciate both of you for making time to be able to be here with us today, just to address some of these key areas for our SMEs that have joined us here. A huge appreciation to all the partners that have put this together: Brighter Monday, Fanisi HR, WorkPay, our sponsors, Family Bank. Thank you so much to the technical team that has worked on the back end just to ensure that we are able to, have this session and it delivered to you successfully. So we have come to the end of the session, and I will let the platform on for a few minutes so that you can continue giving us feedback on the feedback form that was shared, and maybe the team can just reshare that for you to be able to access that, as well as be able to copy paste any important emails that have been shared on the chat. We have just reshared Kavina's email on the chat section, as well as Boris and the sales team from WorkPay, where you can reach out to. We've also been able to share the different social media platforms. Feel free to follow us on those platforms. Again, Wild International holds such webinars around different aspects of business for small and medium-sized enterprises. So we do have such next month. Please follow us so that you're able to get information on the different topics that we'll be covering for the many months that are coming up. So I will end the session here. I hope you are able to take a thing or two that will help you navigate recruitment and also retention of talent in your SME. Yeah, and without taking any more time, have a lovely evening and feel free to drop off at your convenience.